If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
The West Tigers podcast, a little bit different. I don't think we've ever recorded on a Friday before, at least I can't remember. And a third podcast for the week, Gary. This must be overtime.
Yeah, and it was Eddie's idea, so I expect a paycheck from Eddie. He didn't want to preview the game the other night? It was like too much for him, so he made us have a third episode?
He had a difficult week because he was completely wrong last weekend. A little bit wrong during the week, and he's, I think, taking some time to reassess his position in regards to the podcast. So we'll see how he goes. I did notice that he called me the dead clock, which is apparently, Nick, a dead clock is something that's wrong twice a day. I think he means a broken clock, but anyway.
I like the term dead. That's a real Eddie comment. He comes across as a dead man occasionally, but dead clock, why not? TikTok.
We, of course, had the conversation last Sunday when all hell broke loose in regards to Galvin. I think it was last Monday, wasn't it? When we had we recorded that pod. And then there was a lot more discussion on Wednesday, but some more developments. Of course, the press conferences that everybody was so eagerly anticipating. Benji had a say. And then Luai and Appy had a say as well. Some really, I'd say, pretty disrespectful leading kind of questions by the media. But anyway, I thought they handled it all very well, Gary. And I think probably the overarching conversation around this is, and we can't answer it tonight because we've got to wait and see what happens, but is this going to, for want of a better term, galvanise the West Tigers playing squad? Is this going to make them or break them? That's what we're waiting to see.
My prediction is it will, and I think we'll see that on Monday. I'm expecting the West Tigers to come out and perform really strongly. But in regard to those press conferences yesterday, I thought they were really impressive. I thought the club did a really strong job of that. The key point for me was when Benji Marshall was asked whether the social media posts and the players refusing to listen to Lockie Galvin when he stood up in front of the playing group, whether that was bullying. And I thought his answer to that was spot on. He said it was an emotional response. And bullying is something that's repeated, it's targeted, and an emotional response isn't bullying. So I think some of the players got it wrong in the way they reacted to it in the social media posts. But I think Benji Marshall did a really good job of shutting down the fact that that's not bullying. That's just players having a disagreement and a reaction to the comments that were primarily made about Benji. I thought putting it out there like that was a really good way of really showing that this narrative that's starting to build in it, that Lockie Galvin's being bullied. Well, a couple of social media posts isn't bullying. It's players not being happy with you.
What I was really curious and interested, I guess, to see was during that Fox News coverage when they were showing the press conference was they kept cutting back to the Tigers on-field training session that they were doing, and that was clearly from yesterday because, Lockie was wearing the orange, I guess, opposed shirt, running those opposed sessions against the NRL starting team. But just seeing, it looked like nothing had happened, like within the team dynamic. Like Lockie still looked happy. He was still running around smiling. He was, I think he was doing some leg swings with, might have been Luke Lally, partnered up, and they looked like they're having a joke. It didn't really look like, he'd really rubbed any of the boys the wrong way. That just seemed to, that's kind of hard, right? But just looking from those sort of snippets that we saw on the coverage, everything looked okay. So it doesn't look completely fractured. It's like I said the other day on the pod, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out the next few weeks. But I don't know what we want. Do we want him, to see out the rest of his contract? Do we want to get rid of him ASAP and try and bring someone else in? Yeah, there's so many different paths this could take. I really don't know which way it could go, but just the way that I saw his reactions on the field, it didn't actually bother me too much. I thought he looked fairly comfortable in amongst the presence of his teammates.
Though, to me, that did contrast a little bit, Nick, with Jerome Luai's comments. I think
Correct.
Jerome Luai was very professional in what he said and the way he spoke. But there was definitely, he put across that the team weren't happy with the comments about Benji Marshall.
Yep.
And the line that he would be happy for him to come back into the first grade side when he deserves to wear the jersey. So that to me indicates that as far as the playing group is concerned, that Lockie Galvin needs to prove quite a few things before they're happy to have him back into that first grade side. And I don't know whether that's a week, whether that's 2 weeks, whether that's a month. But I think what we want as a club, in answer to your other kind of query there, Nick, is I think we need to get to a situation where we get something in return for Lockie Galvin. That, yes, he probably moves on from the club, whether it's at the end of this year or it's earlier, but there needs to be something coming back towards the West Tigers for that. And that's why I think it was really crucial that Benji Marshall's comments about the bullying narrative that's starting to be raised by the journalists and from, let's face it, from the Galvin management camp. I think getting that situation resolved is really important, because that's the out they're going to try and use, is that he's being bullying and it's unfair to leave him in the club. And that's why I was disappointed in what the players' reaction to it. Because what's really important is I don't think Lockie Galvin's going to be at the club long term.
Yep.
What's really important is that if he is released early, that there's something in return for the West Tigers. And I think the media conference yesterday set that up after a couple of steps backwards in that regard, due to some players posting.
Looks to me from the outside like we've genuinely got some players in the squad that care about the club, and that's something that we wouldn't have had in the past. Maybe not for a long time. I'm sure there's been times where we've had that unity, but what I'm liking is that, or what I can see different, is that in the past, a day or two after all of this, one or two players would have broken ranks. Like it would have been, you would have been able to determine the split in the playing group. And as far as we can see from the outside, it looks like they're united and all on the one page, which I think is really, really heartening.
What's really strong for me about that is it's coming out in support of the coach. We've had a club that has turned on coaches pretty much our entire history at some point. Even Tim Sheens at the end of his first tenure at the club, the players turned on him a little bit. And we had the walking on edge shells type comments around Madge Maguire. And for me to see our playing group come out and stick up for their coach, and I thought Jerome and Appy both spoke about Benji Marshall really well in that regard. That's a real positive for me. And you're right, Joel. I think they are all united, and that's why I expect them to come out firing on Monday, because I think that playing group is going to want to show that the changes that have been made and the team that's going out on the field on Monday is a united team that can go out there and win football games. And I think we're going to see one hell of a side come out ready to play come Monday afternoon.
I completely agree there, Gary. I think that as well. What really got me was the emotion that Benji showed during that press conference. He obviously cares a lot for the situation. He takes it to heart that, the way that Lockie's come out, or his managers come out, whoever it was. Obviously, Lockie's a big part of that decision, right? Maybe he didn't write the statement that was released to the press, but he obviously was asked to front the playing group, and that didn't go so well. But so obviously there's a lot of sentiment with his reasons that are true, and that the reason that he wanted to walk away is he didn't feel like he was going to develop, and he didn't feel like he was in amongst a group of players that can do anything in the next few years. Whether he ends up going to a club that's going to be any better than our position, we'll wait and see. But yeah, the emotion that Benji showed during that press conference was very honest and very raw. But even the way that he spoke about Lockie as well, like he said, I love coaching him. I've always told Lockie, I love coaching. He's such an easy guy to coach. And the way that he praised his family as well, because I know that there's been some rumors and stories about his father and about his family and that sort of thing. But I think it's going to gel the boys very closely on Monday too. I honestly think we're going to come out firing too. It's just it's a really unique situation. It's very different to when we lost Teddy, Moses, and Woodsy at the same time. Like that was very different sort of storyline to how this one's playing out. So I honestly don't know what's going to happen in the next 3, 4, 6 weeks. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, you can kind of see their point of view because we've been through a lot of turmoil. We've been through Potter, we've been through Jason Taylor, we had Ivan Cleary. There was a lot of things going on in the background. You can kind of understand why the players were getting a jack of all of the turmoil and all of the upheaval all of the time. So you kind of get where their head was. But this doesn't add up, and the way that it's been handled doesn't add up, or it does if you look at it a certain way. I'll talk about that in a moment, Gary.
For me, you have a look at what happens usually when players leave a club. You have a look at Jerome Luai and Taruva coming out of Penrith last year. You have a look at Mitchell Moses, who really had a contract for 6 years at the Parramatta Eels, but has used options. Did I say Mitchell Moses? I meant Dylan Brown, who had a 6-year contract at the Eels and used clauses to get out and go to the Knights. The teammates usually fall around them and support them and say, we understand, like he's doing what's best for his future and for his family. And while our guy said that, there's also been all this upheaval over it. So it really is a unique situation. The talk about players being hypocrites in Jerome Luai and Taruva because they left the Panthers last year for deals at the Tigers and are now bagging someone else for leaving. It's quite obvious that their issue isn't that he's leaving. And I think that goes to the fan base as well. The issue isn't that Lockie Galvin is going to go to Parramatta. While I'm sure everyone's disappointed, I'm sure the players are disappointed, and as fans, we're incredibly disappointed that he's going to leave. And I did say Parramatta, but that may not be where he ends up. But
breaking news, Gary.
Yeah, breaking news. I did just make that up. But for me, that's not what the anger side of it's all about. The disappointment side, sure. The anger that's being directed is the way this has been conducted. The leaking of stories to the media, bagging out the current coach. Now, that damages Benji Marshall, but it damages the West Tigers. We're trying to recruit players and to have who's regarded as the best young player in the game going out and saying, I can't develop under this coach. That damages our chances of recruitment.
Yeah.
And that's what the fan base is upset about. That's what the players are upset about. Sure, move on, go to another club, but do it with class and do it with dignity.
Then you've got someone like Latu, hopefully coming back before too long from injury, who was quoted, yesterday or whenever it was saying, he can't wait to get his chance in the halves and he loves being coached by Benji. So there's clearly a very strong bond within the boys and an affection with the coach, with Benji. So there's something there. And I think that showed with the way Jerome and Appy, supported Benji at the press conference yesterday.
Just clarifying with Dylan Brown, Dylan Brown didn't turn around and say anything about Parramatta. He just said, there's an opportunity there that I want to take that is good for me. And that's the difference. The other thing too,
and they're professional footballers, Joel.
Yeah,
they're professional footballers. That's what they need to be doing. They're going off and getting a better paid job or a gig that suits you elsewhere. They're a professional footballer. That's the modern game.
Yes, but if you're professional, that's what you do. But if you're unprofessional, you handle it the way that Lachlan Galvin and his dad and his manager have, which is create a storm so you get released early. And there's two other important factors in all of that. One, Benji is not just a regular coach. As far as we the fans are concerned, Benji is, to a large extent, the West Tigers. He is our greatest player and somebody that is a decent guy and we all have a huge amount of regard for and respect for. So that was a slap in the face in terms of how we feel about Benji. But the other thing too is that you could make a case. You could say, I get where you're coming from, Lachlan. You can't get a run. You're running around in that Lidcombe. You're stuck in New South Wales Cup. The coach won't give you a go. The coach has rolled out the red carpet for you change so many things to suit you, and it's still not enough. And the whole thing is just wrong. And I understand why we, the fans, are so upset about it. And it really does stink. And I'm just glad to see the club close ranks. I'm glad to see the players come out protecting Benji. And the other thing that's been lost, and I haven't seen one person in the media anywhere talk about this, is what about Benji's mental health? Like, you have publicly pulled the rug out from under him, and he's the guy that's got the least amount of job security. He's the guy that's, almost surviving year to year. Lachlan Galvin's going to be fine. He'll have a contract for pretty much as long as he wants. But to do that to someone who I think from the outside, who has supported you so strongly, and to come with a list of grievances, it just stinks. The whole thing really stinks, and we shouldn't fall in the trap of falling for this garbage of poor Lachlan. I just cannot believe how poorly this has been managed by him and his people.
You're exactly right about Benji, Joel, because if this job goes away from him in the next 12 months, he doesn't get another gig coaching. This is his one and only chance at this point. It's not like some other club's going to pick him up and take him on if he can't get this club moving forward. So 100%, that makes that situation much worse. So you're spot on there, Joel.
Sometimes I do like to use the example of a relationship between two people, because after all, this is a relationship-based scenario and situation. But if you've been going out with someone for 18 months, and you sit down and you say, oh, this is not working for me, if you've got any class, you don't trash their reputation and highlight all their negativities and flaws. You just say, look, you go your way, I'll go my way. That's the classy way of doing it. These people, unfortunately, Lachlan, the people that are around you, I think, are lacking in class, and they are representing you. And I know that you're 19, but I reckon when you're 29, you might look back at some of this and go, oh my God, what was happening? But you never know. This may be a representation of who he is. And I think that it's going to be the Eels. And the point that I want to make is, who's he going to go and play alongside at the Eels? He's going to go play alongside Mitch Moses. Mitch Moses has all of a sudden found himself at the Eels with a rookie coach, no forward pack, no great prospects coming through, and a long, long stretch of probably really poor results for the Eels. And so what does his uncle want to do? He wants to help out Mitchell. Yeah, let's make it all about Mitchell. Let's get these two together. And I think there's something in that as well. So the whole thing just completely stinks. But I do love that there's a change from old West Tigers to new West Tigers. And I do know that Nick, he would be, or Gary, we'll go to Nick first. Richo would be lapping this up, because he knows that he's going to play this for whatever advantage he can to the utmost degree. And it won't be a soft release like it might have been under the previous admin.
Yeah, I mentioned this the other night on the pod that, and I said a few minutes ago too, that there's so many different paths that this could possibly take, and everyone has a different opinion on it because it's such a unique sort of scenario. But I'm happy to sit back and let Richo dictate the next move. Richo's been around long enough. He's the smartest operator in the business, and thank God he's at our club during this time, because I'm just putting all my faith in Richo. He will know exactly what the best move is for the West Tigers. So I've got no doubt that the entire club, we've seen the playing group come out and stick behind Benji. Hopefully we'll see that on the field on Monday, but I'm sure that the entire club, including everyone that works at Concord, is going to galvanise, there's that word again, together. And, I think we'll come out of this okay. It's obviously a huge shock to lose, or to have someone as good as Lockie want to walk away from a club at the age of 19 after, what's he plays at 26 first grade games or something like that. It's not many. So he's just a kid. But yeah, you're probably right, Joel. I hope he doesn't look back in 10 years and really, he might regret these actions, but who's to say that he's not going to jump around a few clubs over the course of his career too? Is he going to go to Para and be happy for the next 5-10 years? What's going to happen there? Who knows? So.
Well, what do they say? The best results of future performance is looking at past performance. And I think he played for 5 different junior clubs, pretty much. Play me where I want to play. Don't upset me. Otherwise, I'll pack up my bat and ball and go home. And Gary, you can't build a team around a guy that packs up his bat and ball and goes home. You need someone that's a sticker that will see through the tough times.
Yeah, I think I said to Nick, or I might have said on our chat yesterday, it'll be interesting to see how his career kind of plays out and whether he sticks at one club. But the last point I really want to mention in regards to this, that the narrative that the West Tigers were trying to negotiate a deal with him too early because he's got 18 months to go, that's complete rubbish. And the media guys pushing that are obviously pushing that to push their own agenda.
Correct.
The West Tigers in this situation had a very big competitive advantage in negotiating with Lockie Galvin. And that was the fact that they could upgrade his contract for this year and for next year. So why wouldn't you go to him right now and say, we can pay you extra money for the rest of this season, we can pay you extra money next year if you sign an extension with us? That's smart business. If Shane Richardson wasn't negotiating that contract now, it would be incompetent.
Right.
Because you're giving away what advantage you have in this contract negotiation. So those media journos who are coming out and saying, oh, they should have just waited to the end of the year to talk to him, it's complete rubbish, because it just gives away any advantage that we had in this situation. So I'm really glad that we put the contract to him last week. Possibly really glad that with how they've handled it, that they knocked it back, because this is not something I want us to be dealing with all year. I think Shane Richardson then came out and let everyone know what the situation was. This is ripping the Band-Aid off it. Yes, we've had a hard week, but if this wasn't sorted now, questions were going to be asked about Lockie Galvin's contract from about a month's time for the rest of the season. We'll get through this week, maybe next week, and this sort of news around this will die down, and the distraction that this is causing will be gone. I think we're going to have a distraction of this for 1, maybe 2 weeks, where it could have been for the entire season. So all I can say is well done to the West Tigers on how you handled this. I think apart from some players posting some stuff on social media that they probably shouldn't have done, I think the rest of it has been handled with class, has been handled very professionally. So I just want to say well done to Benji, well done to Richo. This is how I want our club to operate in the future.
Yeah, it really could make the club. That's the way you got to look at it. I mean, we've had hard weeks in the past, just to go on what you're saying there, Gary. We know what hard weeks are. This is, as far as I'm concerned, not a hard week compared to what we've been through in the past, because, as I said earlier, in the past, we would have all fallen apart. This was a good week in some ways.
Yeah, a positive week, I think, even though we've lost probably our most promising junior. I think what it's done for the rest of the team and what it's done for the squad and what it's done for the club moving forward, I view what happened this week as a positive. I think the club handled it beautifully.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the West Tigers podcast. Don't forget, if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on the West Tigers podcast forum. It's free to join and you can contribute directly to the podcast on the forum. Just head to westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
So question 1 in this pod was really, has it galvanised the squad? Is it going to bring us together? We'll find out on Monday. We're also going to find out on Monday, how has playing alongside Galvin affected Luai? Nick, it seems to me a little bit like it's been Galvin's team, and all of a sudden it's Luai's team. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out, and obviously the combo with Dewey.
Yeah, it's well, there's no choice now, is there, for Jerome? It really is his team to steer around on Monday. So, and that's likely to keep shifting a little bit. Well, not shifting as in terms of who's steering the ship now. Like, it's Jerome's, I think, for the season, but there's obviously the possibility of a couple of different combination changes there. So you're right, Adam Dewey's in there on Monday. I think he will do a good job. I'm sure he's going to come out pumped like the rest of the boys and put in a good performance. And we've seen what AD can do in the halves. I know Gary several months ago said he never wants to see AD play in the halves ever again. But
still not convinced, Nick.
I know. There was some hope there in that Parramatta trial at Leichhardt. So I'm just hoping that we get to see some of that again on this Monday against the same opposition. So, and then, of course, Latu. So let's hope when Latu comes back from his thumb injury that's going to be it for him. It's I think it's very important for Ladu to get through the rest of the season injury-free, get a lot of reps under his belt. He hasn't played a great deal of, solid minutes in first grade either. So his chance is here. Like there's no excuse now. Like Latu, I think, should be our number one pick for the 6 jersey or 7, whatever Benji wants to put them in for the rest of the year. But yeah, Latu's got a great opportunity at again the age of 19. So very young. But yeah, Jerome, it's his team, and let's. I'm very worried about Monday. I know we will preview Monday's game, but I am always worried about. Gary's sitting there shaking his head, but it's the Tigers, Gary. I have to worry about every game that we play and every opposition we play. But
thanks, Eddie.
I know, but
it's old Tigers.
It is. I know. I shouldn't be, but Moses back. How much of an impact's he going to have, especially on Dylan Brown too? So, I know. Just nervous. That's all.
Well, I'll go into that a little bit more when we do actually talk about the game. But to speak about Jerome, I think it's been quite clear watching him play this year that he has been deferring to Lockie. He's been feeding Lockie the ball. He said I don't know if it was a post-game conference or a pre-game media conference, he said at some point that he viewed his role at this stage of the season was making room for Lockie. And you hear the reports that he actually stood up in front of the playing group and pretty much expressed that to the playing group that he's happy to play second fiddle if that's what's best for the team and that team first mentality. Well, to me, all season has been crystal clear that's what he's been doing. I think now is the opportunity, and I know that they've moved him to 6 instead of 7, but now's when I want to see Jerome stamp his ownership on this team. His language yesterday about talking about my team and my players, I really liked. I thought it was strong leadership. I want him to go out and do that on the field. I'm very, very happy with how he's been getting us around the park. I want to see him control this team with his football now, because I think it's there and I think he can do it, and he's led us really well so far this season. I'm looking for a standout game for him now, and hopefully, I don't know if pandering to Lockie's the best word, but hopefully he's now free of just trying to make space for Lockie, that we'll see the best out of him.
I think it's an indication of just how professional he is, that he left Cleary because he didn't want to be Robin to Batman, and he came over here, and all of a sudden the circumstances are you're going to be Robin to this 19-year-old. It's really done nothing. And he didn't blow up. He hasn't had a sook. He's just continued to go about his business, and all of a sudden the team is his. And you're right, Gary, he looks ready to lead, and he's backed up by Appy, and he's backed up by some of the senior guys. And I think that's all really positive. And I want to see him take it to the Eels like he did when he would fill in for Cleary and take that role at the Panthers.
And for me, every other part of this team, he's taken ownership over. Like, he's telling players where to run. He's getting us around the field, and he's creating space for other players. So it's not a fault on him at all. I think it's a real positive what he's actually done this year. But listen to him speak yesterday. He is a clear leader. Like, Appy did a great job in that press conference, but it's clear who was the vocal leader out of the two of them, and who was able to deliver that messaging around standards and culture at our club. I thought he did beautifully. And that's why he's so important to our club, not just on the field, but I do want to start seeing it on the field this weekend, and I think we will.
I think with Jerome, his leadership has probably been shown more, not so much in directing the attack as such, or specifically, but a lot of his actions, especially in defence, like his cover defence has been incredible. He's scrambling, behind the line across different parts of the field, stopping potential tries or breaks. A lot of that stuff is real leadership. Also, I think he's only played 6 games, for a new club too, with a few different combinations. So there've been a few plays in and out. It's probably taken him a little while to feel, I guess, comfortable with the other 17 players or 16 players around him as well. So, and that again is going to be a little bit different with AD and the halves with him this week, but he'll settle in. He's starting to get there. We will see the best of Jerome by mid to late half of this season, I think we'll start to see Jerome come out of his shell a bit more. But there's some good times coming. I really think we are a chance of making this 8. I know Eddie's probably a bit negative on that one, but I do think, especially looking at the ladder at the moment, there's a few teams in that sort of mid to bottom half of the 8 that could potentially slide right out. So there's plenty of room for us to move up if we can play some decent footy.
There's a few teams that the quote unquote experts had and cemented in the top 8 that are really struggling. So
hello, Penrith Panthers.
Exactly, Gary.
Just to go back to Jerome and his leadership, especially in defence that Nick was mentioning, and it is leadership because he's actually inspiring the players around him. The biggest criticism I've ever had on Adam Doueihi is his lack of effort in certain areas in defence. And I don't think we've seen that this year. No. I don't think that it's a coincidence that he's defending on the same side of the field as Jerome Luai. I think he's driving those standards with the players around him defensively. And I think for a big part, that's a big turnaround in how we've been defending this year, is he just expects you to be where you're supposed to be and put in the effort that you're supposed to put in. And yeah, Adam Doueihi, I always thought was a very lazy defender at times. And I haven't seen that this year, maybe once or twice. And I really believe that's the effect of Jerome Luai on this side. And it's a little thing that doesn't show up on a stat sheet anywhere, but that's why we bought him. That's the culture that we wanted him to bring across. And that's why I think he is now the leader of our team.
So you're almost saying, Gary, and I kind of agree, that Doueihi is just about raising the bar a little bit for his game, right? And this is kind of like when we've seen Tigers players with a lot of ability and potential leave our club and go on and look like a much better player at a good team. This is almost the reverse. We've got some good players like Jerome that's come into our team who's all of a sudden making some of our players around him look better themselves. So this is, to me, is really the effect that a quality player like Jerome and Taruba come into our side and raise the bar across the board, and everyone starts performing, at a better level. So I think you might be onto something there.
It's a really interesting point, Nick, because Adam Doueihi leading into this preseason, I would have had him at the top of my list of guys that we probably don't need. We don't need him at the club, and I would have been happy for us to do a trade for him, or probably even just release him to free up some cap space and a position over the off-season. But with Lachie Galvin leaving, with his form so far this year that I think's been quite good, I'm not that far off saying throw him another contract for next year. And everyone anyone who's listened to this podcast for probably more than half an episode knows what my feelings have been around Adam Doueihi. If he can show another month or so of really high quality football, now I'm not going to say go give him 800, 900,000, but a roster spot and a fair wage, I'm not that far from saying he can play a role for us moving forward, whether that be in the centres or as a backup half, because with Lachie Galvin moving on at some point, we are going to be a little bit short in the halves. Whether that's the end of this season, whether it's sometime during this season. I don't expect Lachie Galvin to be here next year. So I do start to see a little bit of an opening there for Adam Doueihi to extend his time at the West Tigers. I wouldn't be doing it just yet, but if he can put in a good performance in the halves this weekend, and by a good performance I mean a performance where he's just not running the ball himself and that he's trying to create space for players playing outside him and he's making players around him better, then I think he has a future at our club. And and you're right, Nick, I do believe a lot of that has to do with the leadership of some guys that we've brought into our club, and that the standards are higher, because I think he's working to attain those higher standards, especially with those defensive effort areas.
The irony is that over the off season, and when you're talking over the off season, and you're talking about new players coming, you can only sort of go off what you've seen before. And when I look at a couple of things that have happened, like I sort of in the back of my mind had concerns that Dewey and Luai would clash, but I think they've been really good for each other. I think they're partnering up quite well, and they've given us, a pretty good partnership there on the left hand side. So I like that combination, and I like, as I've said before on the pod, I like Dewey being a little bit more on that right side, and I think that'll free Luai up a little bit more on his preferred left. But Nick, it's an excellent point about players going to another level, and like Steve's been having a go at you lately. What did you do to Steve? Well, why is he having a go at you all the time, Nick, on the pod?
Really sure, Joel.
Yeah,
Maybe feels like he's losing a popularity contest. I'm not sure.
maybe. Yeah.
To you,
Well, I can only say I'm got a few people say I'm doing a good job. What else can I say? Steve, I love you, Steve. Just be nice, smile a bit more, be friendly.
Well, that's because we've got Sydney Steve back, not Byron Bay Steve. It's a different.
Yeah,
Steve.
correct.
Not
He's
as
like
chill.
Sydney traffic.
Exactly. My point being that it's an excellent point because you look at Stafford Tower, you look at Fanua Pole, you look at Terrell May, you look at some of these guys, Seyfarth, 12. Like, there's evidence there that Benji can coach because these guys have all just, and I know there's other factors like Luai and Taruba, but surely if you know anything about football, you can see there's a lot of guys that have made improvement over the last 12 months. It's not just the people that we brought into the team, it's the guys, Dewey as well. Like, has Dewey played better football than he has so far this year? So there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Benji can coach and that the club is heading in the right direction. So that narrative doesn't stick with me, Gary.
are you convinced on Benji as a coach yet, Joel, or you're still waiting to see a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I would consider really that this is his first year of coaching. This is the first year where he's got a team that can be competitive. The question is, did we underperform last year given our squad? I don't think so. I think probably maybe a smidge. You're a bit unlucky. Maybe another couple of wins, but I don't think he had much to work with last year. This year he's got something to work with, and generally the standard of the team has lifted, especially in defence, and that's what you've got to do first.
I do have to give him credit for the best line in the press conference yesterday when he was being asked about Lockie Galvin's comments, or the comments about him not being able to coach, and no one thinks I can coach anyway. So
100%.
I thought that was fantastic, and I think he is starting to win me over. Like I'm still not 100% convinced he's going to make it, but the signs are so much better than they were 12 months ago, and he's doing, like, even when it was announced, it was kind of difficult to see how he could make that transition so soon after playing and not having that apprenticeship behind him. But I think he's doing a really good job at the moment, and he 100% has the management side down of it. The players respect him, and what's been most impressive for me, I thought,
Mostly respected.
Mostly, yeah. Well,
there's a few exceptions, maybe one. Yeah.
If everyone loves you, someone's lying to you.
Yeah.
So, but for me, the biggest thing with his coaching this year has been the complete turnaround in his coaching from last year. I thought last year he was probably a little bit too soft on the players. He was a little bit too easy. I don't think we probably trained hard enough leading into last season. But I think he's raised those standards this year. I think you watch our press conferences and the after game ones when he's got Jerome or he's got Appy sitting next to him. There's no question about who's the boss in that relationship. There's no question who has all the power in that dynamic. And at times he's sitting next to guys who won 3 and 4 premierships, and there's no doubt that he has their respect. There's no doubt that he's their boss. And to the point where Appy was asked a question, not last week, but the week before, Benji didn't want him to answer it. And his reply was, Appy doesn't have an opinion on that. And for me, that's a really big sign of his growth as a coach. But that change he's made this year, the fact that he can look at the mistakes he made last year and change them for this year, is a real positive for him moving forward.
I think last year really highlights how deeply Benji was thrown into the deep end. He wasn't ready to take over the reins last year, but he was thrown in. He didn't have a choice, and I think he learned some hard truths last year. Probably had to learn a lot about himself as well and what coaching requires to get a team to that next level. And obviously he's brought in a lot of good cattle this season, and with that good cattle, like we were just saying, the standards have lifted, and we're starting to see some better results. But I think, Joel, last year you probably could have given Wayne Bennett or Ivan Cleary or Cameron Serraldo the reins at the West Tigers. I don't think we would have been too much higher up the ladder.
Look at South today, beaten 32-0, I think it was, by the Bulldogs. Does that mean that Bennett can't coach?
Yeah.
You've got to look at your cattle and who you've got available and where the club is in the cycle in terms of its development. Serraldo looks like he can coach now, but when he first took over,
they almost sacked
plenty of people saying he can't coach. So, yeah. And so long as Benji keeps growing and improving and learning, then we're heading in the right direction. And Richardson's smart enough to know that. And so long as the season, the wheels stay on and the wheels don't come off and we don't end up a train wreck and we build on what we did last year and keep heading in the right direction, he'll keep having the job. And what I like is when I look at this off-season, I don't see us needing to strengthen 5 or 6 or 7 positions. I see us needing to strengthen 2 positions. And so the job gets easier. So you start to look like a genius. The Trent Robinson effect, you look like a genius when you got 11 internationals. It's the guys that can build, continue to build their squad and build their team and build the way their team combines and plays football and defends and all of those things. And we're hopefully starting to watch that. So, I think it's exciting times. And I think that, as I said earlier, what happened this week might just be sort of a bit of a turning point for the club in a positive direction, because I think we were all waiting for the wheels to fall off for it to turn into a complete schmozzle. And we bunkered down and we got through it together. And I think that's fantastic. That's really heartening. So, the just on some of those, going more specifically to the Eels game. So, and it's not going to matter anything at 4 o'clock on Monday, but the Eels only averaging 13 points per game. Gary, a lot like the team that we ran into last week, a team that is really struggling to score points. We're at 23 average points per game, so a fair few more. Defence also, we're conceding 18 on average. They're conceding 33. All the stats say we should be hot favourites, although the bookies don't necessarily believe so. There's not a huge amount of difference in the betting. You're pretty confident, though. You think that this is going to be a statement game and we should make pretty easy work of it.
Yeah, I think some of those stats, especially attacking stats, need to be thrown out a little bit with Mitchell Moses coming back. I did say earlier I don't care that he's coming back, and I don't care that he's coming back. This is a game that I think our side, our squad, our leadership group are going to want to come out and show, and it sounds harsh, but they're going to want to come out and show they don't need Lockie Galvin. They're going to come out and show that decision by Benji on the weekend to put him back into reserve grade was the right decision. That they supported it was the right decision. That this team is united and moving forward. And you're right, Joel. It is a statement game. I don't really remember us having many games that could be as big a statement as this one is, because it's all about that new group of players and the new West Tigers, as you mentioned a little bit earlier. This is our chance to show that we're a new team. That yes, we can go through some dramas through the week, but we come out on the weekend and we put our best foot forward, and we go out there and we get the win. And I expect our team, and not even talking about the X's and O's of football, I expect our team to come out with the will to win this weekend and to prove a lot of people right, a lot of people wrong. And I think we'll see that on Monday. I can't wait for Monday afternoon, because I think we're going to see a very different West Tigers to what we've seen, possibly in the history of the club. I really think it's what happened this week and the way the players rallied. I really think this is the start of a new era for the West Tigers.
It's an interesting one, Nick. When you look at the halves, and Brown and Moses have played a lot of football together. They've played in the grand final together, but Moses hasn't played this year, and we know what's happened with Dylan Brown. He's had a very tumultuous last couple of months, and then you transpose that over the West Tigers. You got Luai and Dewey who've never played in halves together. Not really, maybe in glimpses in games, but it's hard to sort of. That's where the question marks are. Like, I think you'd be, I don't want to say untouchable, but I wouldn't expect Brown and Moses to fire from day one, having Moses not played this year. I'm pretty confident that they'll take a little while to get their combo back, and that Moses will take a bit of time to get his radar back.
Yeah, I hope they take a while to get back. You wouldn't expect Mitch, after the amount of footy that he's missed, to hit the ground running. I'm actually surprised that he's back this week, because don't the Eels have the bye next week? Because I remember that there was talk that
they got the bye next week.
Yeah, it was more likely they'd rest him this week or not play him, have the bye, and then come back fresh after that. But he's either, they're either that desperate to try and get him back to get a win on the board, or he's going that well that he's obviously good enough to play. But hopefully someone jumps on his left pinky toe, because I've just had a look at the type of break that he's coming back from, sort of affects his left pinky toe. So, yeah, Mitch, just be careful, mate. Hopefully our boys wear some nice long studs on Monday.
Brent Naden, Gary, he's back in the team, and hopefully Naden is one of these guys, because we heard the reports over the off-season, that's going to take his game to another level. He gets his opportunity, lay Lily on the wing. Not to jump around too much, but what I like about our team is our forward pack. It's been pretty consistent, really phenomenally consistent so far across the last 6 weeks in terms of who we've picked and how they've played, and I think that's our advantage.
100%. It's almost like I've got the last couple of games on repeat. Again, I think that first 20 minutes is going to be, I think we'll come out fired up, but the impact that we kind of lack in that first 20 minutes, I think that's going to be a part of the game where we are trying to stay in the game. Again, it could be a little bit different this week with the emotion around the game. But again, looking at it on paper, this is a game I expect to see us kicking from in our 40 quite a bit in that opening 20 minutes and kind of losing that field position, because their starting props are quite good at getting themselves down the field, especially Paulo. So I think that could be difficult in that first 20 minutes. But once we start making those changes of Hunt onto the field, of Bird coming back out onto the field, I think that's where we start to dominate the game. And I think that's where we're going to blow the Parramatta Eels away through the middle. I think Lomax is a massive out for them. I think he's been their best player this season, and the fact that they're missing him while they get Moses back, I think that Lomax loss is huge for Parramatta and their edges on the weekend. So I think Naden, as you mentioned, I think was really good in the preseason. I thought even in that trial game, he was great in the Indigenous game, but even that trial game, up until he did get that injury, I thought he was playing really strong football. So I think our edges will really perform this weekend. And I know we're losing Adam Dewey from one of those centre positions because we've moved him into the halves. But I think that Naden will do a really strong job there this weekend as well. Skelton's a big out, though.
Skelton's a huge out. And I'm glad Luke gets another crack on the wing. But I actually think that Naden coming in, I know we haven't seen a lot of him. He looked good in the preseason until he did his knee. But I actually think he is a little bit of an improvement on Dewey in the centres. So I think
I agree. At their best, I think Naden's the better footballer.
Yeah, I think he offers a little bit more, especially in attack, Naden. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him play and what that combination looks like too. So while we're missing out on Galvin in the halves, I think bringing Dewey in, probably a little bit of maybe a slight downgrade at different styles too, but definitely strengthens our outside backs with Naden coming in.
Yeah, I really wish Latu Fainu wasn't out injured at the moment. I think this would have been a great opportunity for him to take that role on and play with Luai, because I think most people who are supporters of West Tigers see that as probably the future of our halves, So it's really disappointing that he's not playing tomorrow. I'm still wary of Adam Dewey in that role. I think he can have the odd good game there, and I'm really interested to see how he goes. But playing there consistently, I'm not too sure. What I don't want to see, and I think I said it earlier, is too much one out running from him. I want to see him actually using the ball skills that he does have, and that awkward running style. I think that's his biggest strength. Is he's an awkward runner to actually create space for players outside him. So that's what I want to see from him this weekend, and it'll be really interesting to see because at times Lockie Galvin and Luai have been playing on the same side of the field.
Mm.
I really don't think we'll see that. I think we will be going with a split halves, and seeing how that changes the way we attack will be interesting to see as well. Buller with Dewey playing more on the right as I expect him to see, whether that creates a little bit less space for Dream Buller. I think it's really important that we don't lose that attacking threat on that right-hand side. So that's why I want Dewey creating that extra space, because I think Dream's been at his best kind of when Luai and Galvin have been going over to the other side and he's been out there on his own and being able to create on his own. So hopefully Dream's still getting that good quality ball from Adam Dewey this weekend, because I think it's crucially important.
You have to say, just on Brent Naden, the best football he's ever played is alongside Jerome Luai. Like, the highlights of his career
100%.
have been on that same side with Luai. So I reckon that's the first time that they've played together outside of penalty.
Are they playing on the same side?
I believe so.
Toa's predominantly been playing out on that right edge this season. So have we?
The other left.
So yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see as well.
Mm.
So if they swap them around, that will be. Sorry, 100%. You're right.
Correct.
I wish I could go back and edit that out. You're 100% right. Yeah, Dewey's been playing on the left.
The dead
What an
clock
idiot.
is right twice a day. So
Yeah, well,
that was one.
this clock that's always right was just very, very wrong.
You need to change the batterns, Gary. Sean Lane is also out for the Eels. He's on some sort of personal break. Joe Offahengawi departed them this week for the Super League. Ryan Madison, the 18th man. A few ex-Tigers in their back row. Kidiona Katoga and also Kelma Tuolangi. So, yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but they're welcome to all of those guys as far as I'm concerned. And Gary, there is some very interesting guests at the ambush event at Combank Stadium, including Nick Hayes. I have heard a rumor that Nick Hayes has shown up. So if you do come along, please go and say hello to Nick, because he'll be very disappointed if he gets there and no one knows who he is. But we are very lucky. The club has been very, very good to us. And they've got Darrell Skelton, who I think's form this season has been amazing. I wish we didn't have him this weekend, because what he's providing on the field this season, I don't think we can replace. And I think Kit will do a really good job, but we could really use with Darrell playing this weekend. And another guy I wish was playing this weekend in Latu Fainu are both coming over. You need to get in quick this weekend. Gates open at 2:30, and we've got those guys from 2:45. So it is a really tight one. If you're coming out to the game, get out there early, get into the ground. We're starting our event right on 2:30 as the gates open. Come through gate B. It's the bar right next to the gate as you come through. We'll have people out there chasing in. Rach and Mari are going to be out there chasing people into the bar to come and listen to these guys. But to get out there, they're going to sit down for 15 minutes or so and have a chat with me about the game. And yeah, it should be a great afternoon. Yeah, that's really timely as well. So it'll be good to hear straight from the horse's mouth with Latu, who I think, as we referenced earlier, came out really strongly in that story on Thursday. I think it was, saying that he loves the club and he really wants to commit to making it his home over the long term, which is great because both his brothers in good form as well. We need to keep all three of them, don't we? It's an important trio for us, I think.
I don't know if Gary's written out his questions yet, but I'd be very curious to see what he asks Latu, especially that key position of halves partner with Luai with the Galvin scenario or situation going on. So it'll be very interesting afternoon or start to the day anyway.
Interestingly enough, Gary's just dropped out, Nick. So free shot. Tell us what you really think about Gary.
No,
All right.
Gary, you're a good fella, mate. I hope you do make it back on. But just you and Steve, just be nice. Be nice to the world.
Chill out, boys. Chill out.
Yeah,
all right.
Chill.
Well, thank you, Nick. We'll see you hopefully after a post-victory edition of the West Tigers podcast after the weekend.
Will do, Joel. I do have Yachty's quiz, but I guess that's probably a little bit difficult to do now with Gary not on the pod anymore. So
Exactly.
We're going to keep that for a post-game quiz, perhaps.
Especially given that I looked at the answers. So it's probably not worth doing. So thank you, Yachty. We will actually, what we might do is we might post it on the West Tigers podcast forum. So why don't we do that?
Good idea.
Nick, I'll leave you to do that. Post that up and we can have a go at answering those questions. So, alrighty. Thanks, Nick. See you
Good on
later.
you, Joel. See you, mate.